Everyone's bound to get lost sometimes, but often the journey back provides views that you wouldn't have gotten a chance to see otherwise. I'm Tim Garland, and this is the Trail Connection Podcast. I want to take you guys back to the year 2017. It's a pretty significant year in my life because that was the year I was turning 30, but it was also coincidentally one of the most challenging years of my life. Not because of anything, crazy, no trauma or, major life changing event other than the fact that I had gotten to a point in my life where I was really overwhelmed and had gotten down a path that I didn't want to go down anymore. So 2017 was the year that I was turning 30, and I guess you could say I was going through a quarter life crisis or whatever you want to call it. I had gotten to a point where I had so much on my plate that I felt like I was drowning. I had worked really, really hard in my career to move up as quick as I could and achieve some kind of status that I really kind of only put on myself. And it was materialistic. Growing up, I was always looking at my friends and what they had and what they were able to do and comparing myself to where they were and where I felt I should be. And that carried on through my adult life too. And I don't know where this came from because I was not raised poor or in a household where that's what we use to measure ourselves, those material things. I'm not sure how I attained this viewpoint, but I was always comparing myself to where I should be, and I had this sense of entitlement where I felt like I was behind the eight ball, or I was not given the same opportunities that my friends and others were. And so I just began this process of trying to find a way to make the most money that I possibly could make in the shortest route possible. And it kind of went against the grain on what I was raised about, because my dad instilled one of the strongest work ethics possible into me and my brother. And he is absolutely the hardest working man I've ever seen in my life. And so feeling like I was able to cheat the system or take shortcuts to get where I wanted to go, I don't know where that came from, because it definitely wasn't from him. But anyway, I got a chance to get in with a company that I work for now. And as soon as I got in, there was a tremendous amount of opportunity for anybody who showed any kind of drive to move up very quickly. So I took it upon myself to do that. And so I just absolutely threw myself into my career. I would work extra hours, sign up for overtime, everything I possibly do to get exposure and get experience and outshine those around me, just to get an opportunity to move up. And so I was able to do a lot of different things, early on in my career with my current company. And one opportunity just provided another opportunity, but not at some cost. When I first started, the year I started, I actually started the week after my first child was born. And I got about 3 days with her before I had to go and start this brand new job. And from day one out of the gate, I had to prove my worth. I came in as a temporary employee, and I had 90 days to prove that I was worth keeping. And then once I got through that 90 days, I got hired on from the company out of the temp agency, and I had another 90 to again prove my worth. And so I threw everything I could into that job because it was a good opportunity, it was great money, and it was going to save me and my family from financial struggle. So that kind of started this whole thing. And it seemed like every time I got an opportunity to get a little bit more responsibility or get a little bit more exposure, it came with more time or more stress or more dedication to being present there. And so very quickly into that first year, I went on shift and was working swing shift, so rotating from days to nights, and oftentimes putting in anywhere from 70 to 80 hours a week, working most times 5 to 6 days pretty consistently, sometimes even 7 days a week, rotating. And it wore on me. It wore on me physically. Anybody who's ever worked shift work will understand the toll that flipping from nights and days takes on your body and your mind too. But I got really consumed with putting in the time and getting the experience, but it was all with the excuse of this is temporary. I've only got to do this for a short period of time to get the experience so I can make it to the next level. And I was constantly using excuses like that. And I worked shift for about 2.5 years, and got overlooked a couple times for some opportunities, but it was just because I didn't have the experience. And during that time, we had our second child, and this type of lifestyle really took a heavy toll on me and my wife and our relationship. It took a toll on my spiritual relationship, and I just found myself feeling really lost and alone. I was around people all the time, and I was around my family when I was home, but I was never there. I was either sleeping or falling asleep, and I was missing a lot of my infants and toddlers' lives by working this schedule and working on shift. And so I came to a point where my wife and I sat down, and I just told her that I would start looking for day shift opportunities, but it probably was going to come with a pay cut. And at that point in time, that didn't matter. I just wanted time with my family, and I just wanted to be around her and around my babies. And so an opportunity came up, and I applied for it, and I ended up getting it, which jumped out of operations into a environmental health and safety role. And that was a beautiful day. I remember it like it was yesterday. My wife and I were in the front yard with our 2 kids, and they were running around in the sprinkler and just being silly. And I got the call that the interview had gone well and they wanted to offer me a position. And I remember hanging up that phone and just tears streaming down my face, and hugging my wife as tight as I could and telling her that, I did it. I've gotten to the point where I'm on salary, I'm off of shift, and this was going to provide an opportunity for me to get into a higher paying role and have the time to be there at night with them and be able to go to church with them on Sundays and Wednesdays, and be at home to sleep in my bed with my wife every night. And so I began that role, and everything was great for about 3 months. And then another opportunity presented itself that required more time and more dedication, longer hours, but the promise was more money. And so me following this passion that I had to get us some kind of lifestyle that we needed, that some kind of status that I felt like I deserved, jumped head on into that and began the exact same thing that I just tried to escape by getting off of shift. Only now it was, working all the daylight hours and coming home and kissing my kids goodnight, or kissing them while they're already asleep. And again, just passing out and waking up the next day to do it again. Every conversation that I had to do with work. Every stress or thing that upset me had to do with work. I had gotten to a point where I had a work phone and was needing to monitor emails that came through, to see what the potential was, safety potential, if we needed to dig into it a little bit more, and that timelines began, with certain events that happened. So I felt like I had to be attached to my phone, and I was for way too much. And so again, this kind of went on for some time, but an opportunity presented itself. I had gotten the experience that I needed to get, interviewed for the position, and I ended up getting it. And it was at another plant that was further away. There's actually 2 plants that I oversaw, and a lot more responsibility, a lot more exposure, not so much more money, but it was, the potential was there still. And so I took it, and I jumped right in and continued this downward spiral. And all along the way, throughout this process, I pushed a lot of people away out of my life. Friendships dried up and kind of went away, and distance was created. Not because I didn't care about these people, but because they were not as important as my job at the moment. And then every waking moment that I had outside of work, I was dedicating to my immediate family, my wife and my kids. But even when I was doing that, the quality of life wasn't that great, because I wasn't that pleasant to be around, to be frank. I was typically in a bad mood, or stressed out, or something, or tired. And so probably wasn't the greatest husband, and most definitely wasn't the greatest dad for a period of time. And during the same time period of pushing people and things away, I didn't feel close to my church family, because I was not really present when I was there, not involved. And also felt like I didn't have any way of escaping anything. All of the hobbies or all the interests that I had over the years, I had turned into entrepreneurial activities to where they were going to bring in some extra money. And absolutely right now, I needed to be bringing in extra money. And so every waking moment, I was doing something that was dedicated to monetary gain. And so 2017, it hit. And that was the hardest year I've ever had, because that is the hardest I've ever worked. And it's also, ironically, the year that I got the worst rating I've ever gotten in my life. And some of that was politics, but I think a lot of that was because I was spread too thin, and I had too much on my plate, and I was very disorganized at home and at work. And like I said, I just kind of hit a breaking point. And so one night I sat down with my wife, and I just told her, honey, I've got to do something different. Something's got to break, and I can't keep doing this. I feel like every dime I'm making is already spent. I feel like every opportunity that I have to make more money, it's not helping us get ahead. It's only causing more strife between you and and I feel like I'm stressed out all the times, where I'm always hollering at the kids for being frustrating or something, and I don't want to do this anymore. It's not worth it. And so I told her that I'm going to begin a process of pushing a lot of stuff off of my plate. I'm going to be simplifying my life, and starting out, I've got to find some outlet. I've got to find some way of getting an escape when I feel overwhelmed, and pushing things out that way, then letting them build up inside, and then blowing up on you and the kids. And so she agreed that that was something that I needed to do, and she supported me, just like the wonderful woman she is, and she supports me in everything that I do. And so I started that process, and this big event came up for the years, like the one single thing I was working towards all year for work. That came and went, missed the mark by just this much, and it was really devastating because of how hard I'd worked. But like I said, some politics were involved there. But after that event, I just decompressed and took some time to just figure out what I was going to do. And so I took some time, and I sat and I thought about all the things that I liked to do growing up. And I thought about some of my best memories, you know, camping out in my backyard, you know, at my parents' house, and taking trips to the river to go canoeing or kayaking. And I kept coming back to this one memory of going to Weeki Wachee Springs up in North Florida, and my buddy and I were with my family, and we rented a couple kayaks, and we had so much fun just zipping all over the river on those things, and jumping out of trees and swimming. And so I decided that's what I'm going to do. So leading up to my birthday, which is in October, it's coming up, my wife had asked me, you know, what I wanted to do, or what I wanted for my birthday, and I told her, I just want money from anybody who's willing to give me anything or planning on giving me anything. I just want some money to go towards buying a kayak, and that's what I want to buy. And she said, all right. And so she put the word out, and my family was very supportive that year, and they contributed, and I was able to get a little kayak. And so in the process of doing that, I was like, oh, you know what, man, it'd be so awesome to start getting some like minimalist camping gear, you know, some small lightweight stuff that I can pack in the kayak, and I can go on some river camping trips, and you know, that'll be awesome. And so I started looking on Amazon and online, and trying to come up with some some wish lists and some, shopping lists for some different things, buying some accessories for my kayak, and um, I kind of stumbled across backpacking gear. And growing up, man, I hiked all the time, and I fished and camped, and but I never got into backpacking for some reason. It wasn't that it didn't interest me, it just wasn't on my radar. And so um, I I got super stoked about that and was like, man, I've got to start getting some of this gear. And I can do some hike and camping trips, and I can do some backpacking, and I can also do my kayak camping and stuff. So I started getting some gear. And so over the next like 6 months, after I turned 30, I continued this process of pushing stuff off my plate at work, and pushing some stuff off my plate of extra things that I had that were distracting, that were focused on purely just bringing in extra money. And instead of buying some meals out, I would buy some backpacking gear or some camping gear or something. And any extra money that I made from my side gig doing t-shirts, then I'd throw at this camping and hiking hobby. And so a few months in, I told my wife, I was like, I would really like to do kind of a multi-day trip sometime soon. And once I get all the gear, I would kind of want to do a section of the Appalachian Trail or something like that. And she was like, okay, that's crazy, but you do you. But she's like, well, if that's something you want to do, then I'll support you. And so I had kept it in the back of my mind. It wasn't something that was like a burning desire right at that moment, but it definitely was something I wanted to continue to think about and plan. So leading up to about midway through 2018, I had gotten quite a bit of gear. I'd gone camping pretty much every chance I got with the cold weather that we had down here in Florida, and I found a secret spot that I go to every now and then. It's close by the house, and I've taken several of my friends and family members with me there, and really just enjoyed it thoroughly. And it kind of accomplished what I was wanting to do with it. And so I was talking to my wife about all this, and I was just like, I really appreciate the fact that you are allowing me to do this so much, because I'm already gone a lot from day to day for work, and you got a lot on your plate. I mean, at this point we had 3 kids. I know there's a pattern here. They keep coming. But we had 3 kids at the time, and her and I were doing pretty well with our relationship and everything, and she was just so supportive of this effort. And she just told me, she said, Tim, I'm willing to let you take the time to do this now, because it's an investment in us, it's an investment in our future with our kids, and this is something that you can fall in love with now and learn and grow in, and when they're old enough, experience the things that you love with your kids who are starting to love the same things. And so I really took that to heart, and kind of used that as my motivation to keep going. Not so much because I was losing interest, but it like built a flame inside of me that, like, she was absolutely right. Like, this is something that I need to get well versed in, so when my kids are old enough, we can do this and they can have memories that are going to last their lifetime. And so that kind of continued my desire to do this Appalachian Trail trip, and it became more of a burning desire at that point after that conversation. And so it was still kind of early summertime, a little too warm to do it, and I needed a few more pieces of gear that I was saving up for. And so around July, August time frame, I happened to be talking to a buddy of mine at work at church, and he was talking to me about this camping spot that I wanted to try out, that he takes his family to every now and then. And we just got to talking about hiking and backpacking and stuff. And he was like, "Hey, I've done it quite a bit, but I've never done any like the major trails or anything." And I was like, "Well, man, I'm really wanting to do the Appalachian Trail, or at least part of it. Would you want to do a section of it with me?" And he's like, "Yeah, that sounds like a blast. I've never done it before. I've done hiking similar to it, but I've never done it. And I've always wanted to. So yeah, that'd be cool. Just let me know kind of when you're wanting to do it." So I kept that in the back of my mind and kept prepping for this trip. And so I remember one day specifically, I was sitting at my dining room table, and my wife was in the kitchen to my left washing dishes, and I had the map spread out on the table. I was measuring out my route, and I was calculating the mileage between shelters and kind of laying out what I would do each day. And I just stopped what I was doing, and I looked up at her, and she was like, "What?" And I said, "Babe, I'm doing it." And she's like, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "I'm accomplishing a goal." And she goes, "Okay." And some of you are probably saying, "Okay, what's the big deal?" Like people accomplish goals all the time, but for me, if you know me and are close to me, then you know that those opportunities have not been very regular in my life. And I'm very often coming up with big plans, and I'm a dreamer. I'm a big thinker, but very rarely do I see something to fruition, and that's a fancy way of saying that I'm a quitter. And that's a really hard thing for me to admit. That's a really hard thing for me to say, but it's a fact. And throughout my life, in a lot of different things, as soon as it got tough, or as soon as it got to a point where I needed to do something to continue to push on, I would just give up. And so this was a big deal to me. It was emotional. It was something that I was absolutely going to see all the way through, because I had never done that before. And because of what I had mentioned about my kids and this being an investment in our future, I was absolutely going to make it happen. And so mapped out my route. I talked to John again, and I told him that, hey, if you can make this work, this is something I really want to do. And he had to bend over backwards to make it happen. Pulled some strings and got some extra vacation. And this guy went above and beyond for me. I know that I expressed this to him, but he probably won't realize it until he sees this or hears this. But my wife pretty much told me, if you can't get somebody to go with you, you can't take this trip. Like, I don't want you doing this by yourself for the first time. And she was absolutely right to say that, because I definitely was getting in over my head for sure. But John, he rearranged his vacation, and he even went so far as to letting us stay at his family's cabin up there in North Carolina, and have his mom, who lived up there, drop us off and pick us up off the trail. And it meant the world to me that he did that and helped me accomplish this goal. And so, leading up to that point where we took this trip, this whole journey that I've been explaining for the last however long was really inspiring to me. And I was kind of watching things unfold as I was going through this process. And just thinking to myself, like, something special is happening to me right now. My outlook is changing, my attitude is changing, my life is changing for the better. And I've had this lifelong dream, I guess you could say. I guess it's an aspiration, not so much a dream, but I've always wanted to write a book. And I've never had the content to fill it up, but I felt like this transformation that I was going through was inspiring enough to me that it might be interesting for others as well. So I started the manuscript for this book, and leading up to the trip to the Appalachian Trail, I kind of got some information cranked out, and that trip was like the turning point to like complete the story and continue it on. And so it was not only an opportunity to get to accomplish a goal, for me and my kids, but it also was a way to help me kind of fulfill this other aspiration that I have to become an author. And so that was really cool. Everything about that, from mid 2017 to about October of 2018, was really cool. It changed me in a lot of different ways for the better, I believe. My wife saw a lot of changes and benefits to this new direction I was going. My kids had a happy daddy, and someone who was excited about life again and not stressed out to the max. And so that all that was really cool. And so after the trip, when I got back, it was cold enough here to start camping again. And so I got a lot more trips under my belt when I got back here, and all the way through the end of the year. And another pivotal point was New Year's Day of 2019. And I'll never forget that I sat straight up in bed at 4 a.m. and my mind was just racing, just thoughts all over the place about this thing that my wife and I had talked about investing in my future for my kids and for our family. And I was thinking, a book is cool, but I want to document this in a different way, because a lot can get lost in a book, and I want something like almost in real time to document kind of what I'm going through. Because like I said, I've hiked and I've camped and done outdoor stuff my whole life, but I have never been a backpacker or like a thru hiker or anything like that. And so all this was new to me, getting the gear and learning about acquiring permits and planning trips by mileage and getting your weight down in your packs and getting certain different types of freeze-dried food that you can boil water and eat on the trail, or snacks to get you through, and water purification and all this stuff that I've known about, but I've never dove into, And so I had this idea for the Trail Connection, and at the time I did not have a name. I just knew I wanted to do a podcast, a video podcast, to kind of document my journey on sharing experiences with more experienced people and learning and exploring and just capturing this incredible journey that I'm on right now, so that one day my kids can watch it and see that Dad was going through a really hard time in life, but he turned it around. He found something to help with that, and it wasn't something that he already knew how to do. This was something he had to learn, and he threw himself into it, and this is how he taught himself, or learned from others to accomplish a goal that he set. And so, what is the Trail Connection? The Trail Connection is my journey to someplace beautiful. And like I mentioned, I don't want to just get there and show you what I found. I want to show you how I built it brick by brick and how I got there step by step, so that if you're at the same point in your journey and you are trying to learn, and it's intimidating and it's difficult to find information that doesn't intimidate you or anything like that, then come along with me and let's learn together, and let's share from the experiences of those that have been through the trails before, been down this path before, and help use them as a guide to answer those questions that we have, and show what really awesome things are out there. And I want to use the Trail Connection as a way to connect with God, connect with nature, connect with my family, connect with friends, old and new, and all through a common interest in the love for the outdoors and being outside and experiencing the beauty that we live near and even places far away, and document that journey. And so I am super excited to be bringing you along with me. Tonight I am filming from my backyard, and the intent was to have my kids camping in a tent right behind me while I shot this. But because we live in Florida and it's mid-September and the weather's not cooperating, I got them posted up inside. But otherwise they would be out here with me, soaking it up and listening to the bats and the owls and the crickets and everything else, all the other ambience that's in my neighborhood that you're probably picking up on this recording. But I'm excited for what this project is all about, and I'm excited about the journey that I'm beginning tonight, and I'm excited to bring you along with me, and I hope that you share that same excitement and you're intrigued by this concept, that it makes you want to follow along and join in. So if you haven't already, I'm going to give my shameful pitch here now. I've got just about every social media account you could have. I got Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We're on YouTube. And if you haven't yet, go check out our pages. Give us a like, give us a follow. Subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can see these video episodes as soon as they come out. We're going to be putting out some other content as well. And also, there's something else that I think is really cool that we're going to be doing, and we've got a Patreon account set up. So if you don't know what that is, I'm not going to take the time right this minute to explain it, but you should go check it out. It's patreon.com/trailconnection, and you can find us. And there's some really cool packages there that you can subscribe to that will give you some exclusive content and some inside information, and it'll also help carry this thing along a little bit. So I appreciate every single one of you that have taken the time to tune in and listen or watch or follow, and everyone who's already supported me that hasn't heard anything yet. They've only seen some pictures that I've put up with some thoughtful remarks in the caption. But I do really appreciate every single one of you who's taken the time to listen to this, because it's something that I'm very passionate about, and something that I will be pushing so hard to make successful because I believe in it. So thank you so much for tuning in. I want to give a special shout out to Chase Haley for letting me borrow his GoPro, and also to Seth Ryan for letting me borrow his audio recorder to get these first couple episodes recorded until I can kind of get some things going. So big thanks to those guys. I really appreciate it. And again, thanks to everybody who is supporting me, my wife and my children, who kind of understand what's going on, and both sides of my family, both my parents and my wife's parents. So thank you so much, and check back in a couple weeks for episode 2. And thanks again for tuning in. This is The Trail Connection. Okay, so after reviewing the tape a little bit, there were a couple things that didn't really come out as clear as I wanted them to in this first take for our original podcast, and I just want to make sure that information is distributed, because I know this is my first opportunity to introduce myself to everyone, and I don't want the message to get lost. So just to clear up a little bit what the Trail Connection is. So I found that through camping and hiking and getting outdoors was a way of me finding myself again, reconnecting to like my core, my passion. But that might not be necessarily what you find as an activity to reconnect. And so I don't want to alienate those folks that may relate to the message, but they don't find that same passion through being outdoors. I would encourage it, because I think that being outdoors is really healthy and for your mind and your body. But again, that was just something that I found to be very helpful for me to kind of pull myself out of the rat race and really reprioritize what was most important in my life, which is my family and my spiritual walk and all of that stuff. That needs to be at the core, what I'm focused on. And I believe in hard work. I believe in dedicating yourself to your job, but there has to be a balance between how much you throw at that and how much you are able to walk away sometimes and just recharge and get rejuvenated. And so again, for me, it's being outdoors and connecting with nature and all of that. So the Trail Connection is just this passion that I have to balance my life, and I think that others can relate to that message. I think that whether it be through just taking a short hike or a walk somewhere outside, or whatever it may be, you might have something that you're very passionate about. I want you to be encouraged to get connected with that. And so for those of you who are interested in the outdoors and find the same passion and the same revitalization, I guess you want to call it, by being outdoors and doing things like this and being adventurous and exploring and just connecting with nature, then I would absolutely encourage you to continue following along with me and follow me on my journey, no matter what stage you're at, whether you've been hiking for 6 months or 60 years. I would encourage you to follow along and join me in this journey that I'm on. So in future episodes, what can you expect? We're going to be systematically including more and more influences into this show as we progress. So this next episode that will be coming out in a couple weeks, it will be me by myself again, but it will show kind of the area that I found of my escape to. I'm going to take you guys to my secret spot and kind of show you my site setup, show you how I talk about the type of meal that I will prepare when I'm out there by myself, and then just kind of touch on again the importance of being out there and sometimes in solitude to really rejuvenate and reconnect. So that's going to be the next episode, and then it'll continue to build. So third and fourth and fifth, we'll be starting to add in additional parties, people bringing in other people to contribute, and these types of episodes are going to be a lot more conversational based. And really what I'm looking for is just a campfire discussion, just talking and hanging out and connecting with one another, and just explaining experiences and preferences and all different kinds of stuff like that. It's not going to be really my take as an authority on any of this stuff because it's still pretty new to me. But I'm also going to be drawing a lot of feedback and information from folks who have been doing it for a long time or who have maybe had some really cool experiences that we want to share. And so that's the plan. So if that type of stuff interests you, then absolutely hit the subscribe button, hit the follow button, and every single time we post out something, you guys will be the first to know it. Plan on releasing an episode every 2 weeks for the first season. And we're going to be doing a lot of cool stuff. We're going to be doing some river camping trips. We're going to be doing some beach camping trips. We're going to be doing sections of the Appalachian Trail. And really looking forward towards the end of the season. We're going to be trying to go out west for the first time for me. And I'll be teaming up with some folks who have been out there several times before to bring you guys some really incredible content. So I'm looking forward to it. And I hope that you guys are interested in following along. And thank you so much again for tuning in for this first podcast ever of the Trail Connection. And I am so pumped to be connected to you guys and to push through on this journey moving forward. Thanks.